Alan Quinlan's in the house, just
Morning,
like that.
lads. How are you?
How are you?
Very good.
Looking forward to the weekend. Big stuff coming up.
Yeah, it is, because it's they're back-to-back games, Johnny, and there's always an intrigue with the back-to-back games. The psychology of playing the same team twice in a row in a cup-style scenario where
my favourite part of the entire club season.
Yeah, it is.
These couple of weeks, because there's just so many little subplots that one game leads into the other.
There is, and I played in so many of them, obviously, over the years, and you beat a team one week and you think you win convincingly against a French team in Thomond Park, and you go the following week and they kick the crap out of you and they beat you, or it's so much more difficult. And, so it's really, the results can change so much, dramatically. Leinster went in 2013 to Northampton. Obviously, that's the first game, and they beat Northampton 40 points to 7.
Yeah.
Which suggests then that they're going to win at home convincingly the next week. Northampton beat them 18-9. So sometimes the results, the form, it's kind of like the FA Cup. It just goes out the window sometimes. And now that happened in 2016 again. They won 37-10 in the first game. Really convincing again. They backed it up the week after and won 60 points to 13. But as I said, it's a defining couple of weeks really for teams. Our kind of motto and mentality, and it hasn't changed, is if you've a really tough game away from home, a losing bonus point is not a bad result, and then you win with a bonus point, or you get 5 to 6 points in 2 games.
Mike McCarthy is on co-coms with Neil tomorrow in Northampton. How are you getting on, Mike?
Hi lads, morning. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. This is an intriguing game, as Quinny says. They're back-to-back. They're in the Aviva Stadium early. Next Saturday, I think. Next Saturday week.
Northampton tomorrow, and then the Aviva
Saturday week. Intriguing couple of back-to-back games here for Leinster.
Yeah, big time. As Quinny was saying, I actually played in the 2013 one where we hammered them at Franklin's Gardens, and then if you're just slightly a few % off mentally going into the next game, you can get turned over, as we were, and we were probably just a bit complacent in the week during training, thinking we were probably a bit better than we actually were, and we got overturned, full house at the Aviva. So Jamie Heaslip dropped the ball, unfortunately, just to win the game at the end. But we were way off the performance we had the week before, and that's the thing mentally. If you're just a few % off, as we know, you can 1 week's a long time in a rugby game.
How are you, Mike? Tomorrow's game, it's actually set up perfectly as well, just the sheer fact that how it's fallen. Leinster and Northampton, 9 points each, top of the pool. Both have 1 bonus point win and 1 regular win. Like, it's looking like a straight shootout between the two of them for first place in the pool, and whoever comes through tomorrow, you'd have to think, has a really good chance of, pushing on and actually getting through to a home quarter final as well. Northampton, from what we've seen so far, they've kind of flattered to deceive over a few years, and have kind of disappointed at times as well in the last few years. But based on the Premiership and what we've seen in the Champions Cup so far, they look like they're slowly becoming the real deal again.
Yeah, it's hugely exciting. I mean, 2 teams in incredible form. Obviously, Leinster have won 7 from 7 in the league, 2 from 2 in the Champions Cup, and Saints have won 4 from 5 in the league. And Chris Boyd's really starting to show, his class from being there for a while now, and they've got a great forwards coach in Phil Dowson, who worked with Stuart Lancaster. Stuart Lancaster captain with England, and he's a great leader, and their forward pack's playing incredibly well. And exciting for Northampton. Last week they had Matt Proctor, capped once by the All Blacks. He played his first Premiership game against Leicester last week and made 140 metres ball in hand. So he's really exciting. That centre partnership with him and Rory Hutchinson looks really exciting. Dan Biggar pulled out before the game against Leicester last week, and a guy, James Grayson, who was actually doing a pre-game fitness test, got called in late and completely ran the show. But so interesting to see whether Biggar starts or James Grayson. And the same, Courtney Laws also pulled out before the game. So two teams in great form, and we saw what Leinster did last week with their second team. Against Leon Leinster, the back row, Rhys Ruddock, Max Deegan, Josh van der Fleer were incredible. And then amazing to see against Glasgow, them winning in Scotstoun for the first time in 7 years. The back row there, Caelan Doris, Josh Murphy and Will Connors, 48 tackles, none missed. So the strength and depth Leinster have got. We all know about they used 57 players in the league last season, so it's a really exciting matchup. And Northampton may be a little bit lucky to be 2 from 2 because they nearly lost that game against Treviso, but for a little bit of damn bigger magic at the end to get them over the line to win the game.
That is the mad thing as well, Quinny, about Leinster. Just the strength and depth is off the charts this season. The amount of players they've been able to use and comfortably use in both competitions, bringing in third or fourth choice players at times and looking not that much worse for it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a Premiership side that they don't go out and sign any players. Leinster don't sign players because they don't need to sign players. Mike mentioned there Will Connors, 48 tackles in 2 games, none missed. He's another kind of superstar on the scene, and
there's a fair chance we won't even see him over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, because Van der Fleer and Max Deegan and probably Ruddock will be the captain. I think they haven't had to overextend themselves. I think we're talking about really good form here, but Leinster have just managed, their depth has really been the key for them in the Pro 14, and integrating back in the internationals has worked pretty seamlessly for them, and the results have been positive. They've, the win against Benetton in the RDS, they were tested a few times. They didn't play probably their best game. They looked a little bit rusty, which is understandable. The win in Lyon, it was a very, very it's what you expect from Leinster now, is to go to France and win. So there was a time where any sort of a win in France was a magnificent result. Now it's kind of we're critiquing the performance, So it's hard to know. This is a real test for them, because Northampton will fancy this one. They've had a bit of consistency in selection because they didn't have that many guys away at the World Cup. So that does build a bit of momentum, and they're top of the Premiership. They've lost 1 game. That was away to Bath, but they've been pretty impressive. So they've built a little bit of momentum up. They're missing Courtney Laws and Owen Franks, which are 2 kind of big players for them. But Bigger is going to be back this week, and that'll be an interesting battle between him and Sexton.
Just bring Mike in on that. What are the interesting matchups? Obviously, Sexton, Bigger. Where is this game going to be won and lost, Mike?
Yeah, well, they always say it's won and lost up front, but you look at the back rows. They've got an incredible back row. Tom Wood with that experience, and then Tamana Harrison and Lewis Ludlam. Younger guys who've been playing incredibly well, and that's an exciting matchup against Josh Van der Fleer, Rhys Ruddock and Max Deegan. So yeah, that's really exciting. Obviously Dev Toner running the line out. He's very difficult to, from a Northampton point of view. He's going to be really important in terms of winning set piece. And I think it comes down to who's on top in the, laying the foundations in the scrum, the maul early on. And when you go away from home, obviously discipline's hugely important. If your discipline's poor, as Lyon saw against Northampton a few weeks ago, where they gave I think it was 20 plus penalties away, you just don't give yourself a chance to win the game. So they've got to bring a real physical edge going away to Franklin's Gardens, playing against Saints who are in great form, but they've also got to be very well disciplined as well.
Mike, before we leave you go as well, just there's a lot of people saying this morning Jamison Gibson Park likely to get the nod at scrum half ahead of Luke McGrath. Do you think maybe that is something to do with the threat that Cobus Reinach has at scrum half for Northampton, and how quick he is, to have someone maybe with the pace of Jamison Gibson Park in there to kind of deal with him a little bit more?
I mean, it's a tough one for a front 5 forward, to be honest, but Quinny might have a better answer than me. But Luke McGrath's no slouch, to be honest. So they're both very quick. So I can't see that would be the reason against, obviously, Reinach, a World Cup winner, incredible player. But I think it just sums up the depth in Leinster. You've got Luke McGrath, Jamison Gibson Park, who's now obviously Irish qualified as well, which is pretty exciting to see whether he'll be involved in February. But with the form Cooney's shown as well, exciting from an Irish perspective as well. The amount of quality scrum halves there are. But yeah, I'm not sure the ins and outs of why who's ahead of who. But the 2 quality scrum halves, and whoever they pick is likely to do an incredible job against Reinach.
Who wins, Mike?
Sorry?
Who wins?
I think Leinster are going to win. I think they will. The form they've shown is incredible. They've had a chance to rest their frontline players last week, putting their second team out against Glasgow. Sometimes that goes against you, but I think Leinster just going to have a little bit too much for Northampton.
Thanks for your time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Mike.
A reminder that Mike is on duty tomorrow with Neil. That's going to be an absolute cracker, Northampton versus Leinster. Quinny, what do you make of it?
Yeah, no, I think he's right about. I think Leinster, like I said, Northampton. It's kind of you're not really sure. All these a couple of these Premiership games are on while all the players are away. They have been impressive and they have built a bit of momentum. So it is going to be a tough place to go. They beat a very, very well. It's hard to know, a very, very good Leicester team on paper last week.
Yeah,
who had Lavanini and
strictly on paper is the emphasis there.
Johnny May, all their English internationals back.
Leicester were bad.
Leicester were bad, yeah.
But
Do you
also
think
as
they'd be
well,
better
I would say as well, Northampton, some of the rugby they played in it, like they saw that Leicester were bad and they absolutely hammered the foot down on the throat.
And they've a lot of good young players who. So look, some of the players are a little unknown, and then some of them we do know of them. There's only 5, I think, in the group from 2016. So it's been Chris Boyd has done a really good job, the New Zealander there. So, but look, I think Leinster have the pedigree and they probably have the mentality and that little bit of resilience to go there and get a result. So I don't see them losing there.
They had a near miss last year, obviously. Are they very much on track for winning the Heineken Cup?
Are they on track? Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, of course they're going to be very, very close again. Look, when you get down to the last stage, I think it's sometimes it can be a little bit of tactical stuff, and you saw the final with Leinster against Saracens. They were superb, 10 points up in the final, and then just tactically, I think against a very, very powerful physical side, they probably ran into the strong defensive areas around the side of the ruck, and Saracens kind of smashed them there and out-muscled them a little bit. So they'll learn from that, but they're definitely going to be knocking on the door again. There's no doubt about it.
You mentioned Saracens. They travel to play Munster at 5:30 tomorrow, which is probably maybe a slightly closer game on paper and a fascinating one to call as well.
Yeah, it's hard to know what. With all the
where do we start?
Yeah, where do we start? There's so many stories.
But even like who's going to be playing for Saracens is the big question.
And I think for any of the viewers who don't know the story, Saracens were fined $5.5 million and docked 35 points from the Gallagher Premiership a couple of weeks ago for irregularities, or was it proven, or what kind of statements did they come out for breaching the salary cap?
The salary cap.
But nobody can see.
It's disputed by Saracens that it was deliberately. They've accepted the punishment.
That there were administrative errors, which is strange.
I think they're saying they acted in good faith.
They didn't appeal it. Look, at the end of the day, there's going to be an asterisk around tagged onto Saracens from now going forward, and it's a shame really, because we're used to playing teams with massive budgets in France, 25, 30 million. Saracens' budget wouldn't be that much, be a lot less than that, but they obviously have a salary cap in the Premiership in England that you have to adhere to. A number of the English Premiership clubs were breaching it slightly a few years back, and there was always talk, and you'd hear whispers within the game about certain clubs doing certain things and offshore accounts, and Saracens were one that was mentioned to me a few times, and it's obviously that wasn't proven, but from what I hear is everybody got a little rap on the knuckles, and they were all brought in a couple of years ago, and they signed up to an agreement, and this was the case, and any breaches would be dealt with significantly. They got the most severe punishment.
Couldn't have been more severe.
We can't read it'd be brilliant to be able to get the document and read it and highlight the print and say, well, this is exactly what they did. It's to do with co-investment for players.
Yeah.
And obviously market value. Now, what they have done, Saracens, in fairness to them, they produce fantastic young players.
Yeah.
Their academy system is right up there, and they've developed that. And Mark McCall has done a magnificent job.
That's where they've voiced their frustration that they have been put into a situation whereby they are. It's sort of like Leinster, except you're dealing with a salary cap where they are producing so many absolutely outstanding players, and they're almost being punished for it. Is their opinion?
And in simple terms, when they become England internationals, which a number of them have
suddenly
done,
they command
and suddenly
enormous
their
wages.
agent goes in to Saracens and says, "Well, market value now is 400,000 or 500,000.
Now there are
600,000.
exceptions made in the salary cap. You kind of get allowances and for home for marquees, but also there are kind of things in place for that. If you are producing lots of good players yourself, you kind of get credit in the bank essentially. There's
a lot of complicated kind of things that can happen in there, but ultimately, if your salary cap, I'm not sure what the number is 7.5 or 8 million or something like that, they're well above that.
Yeah.
So to be fined the amount they have, they must have been well above that. And what they were doing, we hear and we're told, is they were doing co-investments with players. So if Johnny Ward wants 600,000 at his market value, and they can't squeeze that 600,000 into their budget because they can only squeeze 400 in, so they're going to take 200 off you, 200 off you, 200 off you, but they were going to give you an investment, which is a value to you.
Right, to Johnny W. Investments Limited.
And you're going to get an investment in property or something like that. So
it's really getting me buzzed up for the FAI accounts later on. But
in fairness, it'd be a brilliant way to operate if
it were legal.
If the salary cap wasn't there for them.
Yeah.
Because as a player, I think you'd definitely be keen to say, right, okay, rather than take the salary, give me an investment that hopefully will grow and that it's kind of bricks and mortar, if you like.
Let's talk about the game. The very dramatic game against Racing showed that Munster's their courage and their heart and all that. A game they probably could easily have won, obviously, in the end.
They had 10 line breaks in that game, and it's something that we're not used to seeing Munster making clean line breaks. I thought their ambition and the way they played, you could see maybe a little bit of a change in the way they're trying to play. The problems and issues they had were they defended poorly and soft at times. Now, Racing came to Thomond Park and it was an absolutely superb performance, and they have the depth in their squad and the power to do that. So it wasn't a game that I went afterwards, I'm going to criticise Munster, because I thought they actually did so many good things. But what they didn't do was they didn't actually go play a little bit of smart old school Munster rugby, if you like. The stuff that is just tight, good kicking, hard runners, frustrate the opposition. They actually played, the way they played Racing kind of, it allowed them to play a little bit. And they didn't impose a pressure game on their breakdown or their set piece. And so they look back on that with regret, I think, at the end of this competition.
And also Saracens go into the game thinking there are chinks there that they can expose.
Yeah, and the thing, Johnny, is what team will Saracens pick? Because obviously they can only play their internationals for so many games. Are they going to focus on the Premiership? Will they play their players in Europe? Then they might be able to play them for Premiership games when it counts to try and stay up this year.
For the first couple of games, there's kind of been, it's been a half and half kind of. They have had a few of their kind of marquee England players out there, and they've had a few of the the less high profile players.
If I was them, I'd
there.
play the group that played against Ospreys 2 weeks ago, who's still a very, very good side, and they're well capable of beating anyone. Okay, they wouldn't be as strong if the Vunipola brothers are there, and Atoja and Farrell and that, but they can afford to win their 3 home games, and they're going to get a bonus point win in Ospreys anyway. So four wins is going to get them out anyway. So I don't know if they're going to bring the big.
Are Munster already in must-win territory for this game tomorrow?
The place will be rocking
because
tomorrow for
this. If they lose tomorrow, that's 2 home games that would have dropped points in. Realistically, if they were to lose tomorrow, they'll have to go to Allianz Park and to Paris and pick up wins in both of those games.
If because of the draw, they have to get one of these away wins in either Saracens or in Racing, and I think I have a feeling Saracens will pick all the big guns next week at home, and they're practically
even if Saracens were to lose this week, do you still think they'd come all guns blazing next week?
Yes,
having had two defeats.
What in practical terms, Neil, I think if Saracens win their 3 home games, they've already won the home game against Ospreys. They can win the home game against Munster, the home game against Racing, and they'll win away with a bonus point win in the Ospreys. The way they're at the moment, I mean, that don't mean to be disrespectful to them, but that's where they're at the moment. 4 wins will get you very close to getting out of this group. The where Munster are at, they have, they've won 1 and drawn 1, but one of the draws at home. That's the problem, So they have to get something on the road now against Saracens or Racing.
Prediction time?
It's very hard to predict this one, Johnny, because we need to see the teams.
Yeah, I think it really just absolutely comes down to the team.
It drives me bloody demented.
I'll be with the GA teams out on a Thursday for
they
the
should be out on a Thursday for a Saturday game, and it's something that Europe should do. The internationals do it, so you can then look.
Well, you're spoofing because how can I call a game I don't know who they're playing?
Yeah, because if they pick all the big guns, I think Saracens can win in Thomond Park. If they leave them out, they'll still be very dangerous. But then I think Munster out of pure desperation and out of maybe fixing some of the issues they had the last day and maybe executing some of those line breaks, I think they've enough to win the game.
So Connacht go to Gloucester on Sunday and Ulster face Harlequins tomorrow at 3:15.
Connacht Gloucester as well. You'll hear that on Off the Ball as well on Sunday afternoon. Myself and John Muldoon.
It's tricky for them. It's tricky for them. I know we're probably we're caught for time here, but I think Connacht. It's been a tough start for them. The Montpellier game at home, they won it nearly late on, a couple of points. It was a brilliant win. They've had so many injuries in the first couple of rounds away in Toulouse then for that game where they actually played brilliantly with...
Yeah, I think missing out on the losing bonus point and then conceding a bonus point try,
but I think
that's a stinger on them.
Yeah, this is one that... Would you fear going to Gloucester?
I don't think they would.
No, they won't fear there.
But they've plenty of experience playing against them over the last few years as well.
Team selections, who have they back and stuff, but I think it's a really good chance there. And for Ulster... winning away in Bath, they have a little bit of steel and resilience that we haven't seen in recent years, that bit of toughness that you need to dog it out. They showed that in Bath and beating Claremont at home, one of the favourites, along with Leinster and Saracens, was impressive. So I think they can build on that against Quins tomorrow, get a good result. And again, they'll probably put Quins out of the competition if they get a good result against them and go there next week. So I think Leinster are the ones who are going to win. Leinster will win the back-to-back, both of them. I think Ulster...
Confident?
Yeah, they'll win both games this week and next week, and I think Ulster can probably do the same. I think Munster 1 out of 2. And Connacht, they could... A losing bonus point in Gloucester wouldn't be bad for them, and then beat Gloucester next week. So
I think if Connacht were to go and win this weekend, you'd be very confident they'd go and do it next week.
In the sports ground, yeah. So it's I think the way they play and the kind of confidence that Andy Friend has instilled in them. But look, ultimately, it depends where Gloucester are at. They how much they want it at home, because it's a tough place to go, Kingsholm.
You're in Thomond Park?
No, I'm in Northampton.
You're in Northampton as well?
Northampton, Leinster, yeah.
But both you're off to Northampton tomorrow?
Exactly, yeah.
Virgin Media, yeah.
And
he's for News Talk.
Yeah, we specifically off the ball. Thanks for that, Quinny. And he will be with Mike McCarthy and Brendan Mackin. Thanks for coming in, Quinny.
Cheers,
and giving a plug to a rival station.